I want to show you a conversation that I had with a friend of mine, Nkenge. She's a full-time content creator. But before you go and quit your 9 to 5, let's understand this content creation landscape. Did you know that there were over 45 million professional content creators, and the creator economy is booming? TikToks, Instagram influencers, YouTube sensations, photographers, video editors. There's a whole ecosystem of people who have made a career out of sharing what they do, or just sharing generally on the internet for entertainment, information, education, you name it. What does it mean to be a full-time content creator, and should you quit your 9 to 5? To try and answer that, let's hear from my friend Nkenge, who has made that leap to becoming a full-time creator. 9 to 5 or full-time content creation, where you lean into present day right now, April 2nd, 2024.
I am leaning into content creation forever. Or at least doing my own thing outside of having a 9 to 5.
If your partner says they want to quit their job and do TikTok full-time, would you support them?
I'm not going to say yes or no. I would ask them a question.
What would be that question?
I would ask them, do they have a cushion in terms of a monetary cushion? Do they have something to hold them over for a certain period of time? I would also ask, how much money are they making now with their TikTok journey? If they're not making any money, then that would be a conversation.
Okay.
In terms of expectations and what could, or, what could happen and what may not work out. And yeah, we'd be having a conversation around that. So I wouldn't necessarily say yes or no. I'm not going to shoot somebody's dream down. If that's something they really want to do, I totally get it. But I think if they're making money from it, great.
Right.
If they're not, this is an industry that's changing rapidly, and you have to keep up with that. Also, just working for yourself comes with a level of self-motivation and drive that not a lot of people have. I'll just leave it at that.
Nkenge is a talented content creator, photographer, and lifestyle blogger. She has gained over 100,000 followers across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I spent some time with Nkenge in her apartment in New York, and we got to talk about the possibilities of content creation. And we basically spoke about 5 things: making the move to full-time, consistency as a creator, financial literacy, strategy, and optimizing productivity and your mental health. Making the move to full-time. How does someone even make that transition? So you worked at Apple all till 2021. What were some of the sacrifices or things that happened during that time that you can remember in terms of leading to, full-time content creation, right? So because I want to kind of capture some of those sacrifices. And maybe if you can talk about the first time that you got a sense of oh, maybe content creation might be a thing.
I could say exactly what it was. During that time, I will say there was maybe within the last 5 years, I would say there's been a battle of whether or not I want to be more in front of the camera or behind the camera. And I think for some period of time, I wanted to focus on being in front of the camera. So I would, again, take a lot more photos of myself, maybe collaborate with certain people and really put myself out there. I will also say with photography, I had some bad experiences to the point where I wanted to take a pause on it and just focus on what I've been doing with content creation. And I will say, once I started doing that, that's when more money started coming in, where brand opportunities started coming in and more. And when I started experiencing that and also seeing how much money I'm able to make with content creation alone, I will say that I put photography to the side because I just thought it made more sense financially for me. Yeah, in terms of where I saw myself in life, where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. Because like I said, at the beginning, I was living with my mom. Now it's okay, I live on my own. I moved out in 2021. Yes, so I've been officially on my own for the past 3 years. So just knowing where I wanted to be and being able to afford the rent here in New York and all the other things that I wanted to do, I'm just thinking, I need to make sure I'm making that amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Monetarily though, right? Like, because I think this is a big thing for people who are trying to go full-time, live on their own. Can you give like an estimate of how much money you were making where you're like, oh, I'm going full-time? First of all, how much are you making at Apple?
Oh, I when I started, I was making $17 an hour, and then it went up by $1 every year, something like that. So by the time I left, it was around 22.
That's good, right?
I'll give Apple their flowers. The greatest thing about Apple, what I loved about them, is that I got benefits even as a part-timer. They are the health benefits,
Really?
school benefits, like covering school, because I was also in school during a good amount of time when I was in Apple, but covering the semester costs and things like that, or a portion of that. Yeah. Well, not completely free, but they cover up to a certain amount.
Really?
If you have a certain grade, yes. Yeah.
I think we're gonna come back to.
I'm just like, all in all, what I'm trying to say is Apple, even though you said it's that good, I'm like, the pay itself, I do not see as good.
Right.
But as far as the job itself and what they offered in terms of benefits and especially even for me as a part-timer, and also the flexibility I had while I was working there to be able to go on trips and do the content creation that I was doing on the side, I will say it was a great job. It was a great job. Yeah. I would say that.
So what would you say, like in a year, you would make while working at Apple?
With all the trips that I've been taking, I didn't get paid time off. That's the one thing I didn't get. But sometimes we'll get bonuses and stuff. But I would. And at most, I would say around 20K, 22K. I would get around there.
But you also like living
with my mom.
You're not paying rent, right? So to you, like, you're good. Like, so would you say, so like the money you make from Apple was like funding the content creation,
and my overall living expenses outside of rent. Specifically,
And then in 2021, you're like, I'm going full time. What was the difference?
I became more responsible with money, because there was definitely a period of time where I wasn't very responsible. I had like 9 credit cards at one point, and it were like all maxed out. Yes, and so I will say, 2020 when COVID hit, this was around the time where I actually paid off all my student loans. My student loans completely paid off, and
with content creation.
Well, with the help of content creation and just Apple and other
and just
things.
like hustling, right?
I was able to pay off my student loans and also what changed was COVID, because it was during that time where I was able to go all in. So I was able to actually do content creation without having to be at Apple. We were at home. That's another thing. When I say great things about Apple, Apple was still paying us even though we were at home. Yes.
People didn't guys remote working because it wasn't remote. Oh my God.
That's what I'm saying. So
don't work for Apple.
I know. I tell everybody, I'm like, work for Apple. Work for Apple. Well, I'm saying especially if you're just starting school or anything like that, I say Apple is one of the greatest companies you could ever work for. They take care of their employees. It's awesome. So they were still paying us, and I was living with my mom, so I didn't have to worry about rent. I was still able to at least maintain some of my living expenses, and I was creating. I would be going on my roof, creating videos, just doing photography, all of these things, and I just went all in. And this was around the time where I really took TikTok seriously. Kind of on a break now, but I took TikTok very seriously around that time, and everything started growing. Everything started growing to the point where I was getting a lot of brand deals, and it was just too much. It was like out of hand. It was getting out of hand, but this was good because, obviously money is coming in, and it came to a point where I started making that decision at the beginning of 2021. I'm thinking, okay, should I quit? Because at Apple, I will say the one thing that I didn't like was the repetition, just doing the same thing over and over again. And to some degree, I also felt like I wasn't being recognized in in my at the workforce. That's a whole other thing. So I just thought that, you know what, I really would love to take on content creation where I know that I'm putting majority of my energy and effort in anyway. And so I looked at all my finances, looked at my savings, looked at everything, because again, like I said, I built certain financial habits and became way more financially literate than I was in the past. And yeah, they came to a point where I said, you know what, then I'm going to take on this step because I have a cushion. As I mentioned earlier, I have a cushion in case things happen. I have a good setup where I am, and we'll just take it from there and see how it goes.
Very interesting. The second thing was consistency as a creator. That's one thing that a lot of people don't talk about. You kind of have to be consistent. So you have to be creative, and you have to figure out how to not procrastinate and push yourselves to create consistently. And I wanted to find out, how does Nkenge even manage to be consistent?
I would love to be able to post 6 times a week, or 7 times a week on all social media, like Pinterest and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube or whichever. Like I want to post as much as I can, but I realized even when I had that bingo card, a lot of those goals were not checked off. And the reason why is because I'm underestimating how much I have going on, and I need to set more realistic goals for myself. So I will say, in reading that book, it's made me realize that, and it's become something that I've been trying to work on. And so that's another thing, because I honestly believe once I conquer that, I think things will become way easier for me and less stressful. Yeah, because I'll finally be at a place where I'm like, okay, I can stay constant with doing this. And I know if I were to add more onto this, I'll be able to know, I'll be able to know that what I can and cannot handle. That's what it is. And I tend to take on way more than what I can handle. Yeah.
What would you say about, because right now there's a lot of pulling back, right? And I think because I'm a creator operator, I have a lot of data because I speak to a lot of creators. There's this concept of like pulling back, not necessarily on quality, but pulling back with the idea of going for more output, right? So people want to show up more. So when you talk about like posting 6 times a week, right? Because I know how you think, and like I wouldn't say a perfectionist, right? But you want things to look really good. You care about the aesthetics.
I'm definitely a perfectionist.
No, I get, but I don't think anybody, because I've had this argument with people, right? I don't think anyone can ever be a perfectionist, but I think you definitely strive for perfection, right? But it also comes with your background, right? It's like photography, like fashion, like there are a lot of things that like build up to that, right? Do you think sometimes that could be a crutch for you with the goal of going, like, for example, you want to post 6 times a week across all socials? It's possible, right? But it's like, what kind of content should be outputted 6 times a week, right? It's like, what does that look like? You think there needs to be like a change in that strategy?
I think, yes, there needs to be some sort of strategy there, because yes, you're right. I can post 6 times a week, but a lot of that content could be just any and anything, and there may not be any strategy behind it. It's literally just like maybe posting what I like. It could be a photo of myself, a selfie, it could be whichever. But in terms of answering this question of what value am I providing for my audience, I don't know what much I'm doing with a selfie. There are some people that are able to really provide value with a selfie, but for me, I'm just like, I don't know if I'm really doing much with that. I don't know. And these are the things that I get. I would love to be that person that could just post a selfie and provide value in that way, but there's sometimes where your audience will humble you. I just have to realize, like, is this something that really helps me? I don't think so. So I don't know.
Financial literacy is often overlooked by many creators, yet is a key indicator to you going full-time and you even being successful. You would hear a lot of horror stories about so many creators who were gifted $60,000 worth of products but had to pay taxes on it. So many stories. And I think financial literacy is so important. So I wanted to know, how does Nkenge manage her finances as a full-time creator?
Oh, well, in the spaces that I ended up becoming a part of, I will say I learned a lot about being able to charge more, learned about the usage. That was something I never knew anything about. So that was another thing that I didn't know I could even charge for. And yeah, and just learning through my agency, I will say that's also helped me greatly, because seeing some of the emails that they have exchanged, I'm able to observe and look and be like, okay, I see why you asked that. I see what types of questions you're asking. This makes sense, whichever. So yeah, I learned through experience. Yeah, for sure. It's just a bit unfortunate at the beginning, but you learn, you live and you learn.
So when you went full time, how would you categorize your income streams at the time versus your income streams now? You talked about UGC, right? It's like UGC, like what are the different categories?
Specifically was sponsorships that I would do on my social media. That's mainly where I got my money from. And I will say it's because I only focused on sponsorships. That's where my area of opportunities
came from.
lie. Yeah. Area of opportunities right now. Because the thing is, when those sponsorships stop, what else do you have going for you? And I will say I'm in that type of space. They didn't stop entirely, but it is slower than how it was these past couple of years. Yeah, I will say that. That's why I feel like I'm unable to make projections like I was, because things are they're just changing.
So what is that? Because what you're saying, you didn't have a strategy, but you had sponsorships coming in, right? And I think with financial literacy, one of the biggest things is diversification, right? And it's so hard, right? Because like if you have water flowing from this side, like you don't want to ever think that, oh, like the water is going to dry because the sun is going to be too hot, right? But what does like a strategy look like moving forward, knowing that like, yes, sponsorships are great, but there's another side to how you can make money? Like, are you taking any like new steps or anything like that?
So I am trying new things. One of those things being YouTube. So yes, that's one of the ways that I would love to, I aspire to make money from, for YouTube in itself to be one of my streams of income through advertisements and things like that. So I started on that bandwagon, and that bandwagon is a beast. It is a lot of work. I really underestimated the amount of work, but I'm doing what I can with that. So that is one. Number two, I plan on releasing a product soon of my presets. So I'm working on that. God only knows how long that will last in terms of return on investment, but but we will see. I'm trying that out. I'm also there is a acronym that I learned from Miss Maddie James. She's amazing. I absolutely love her social media and just everything that she's about in terms of teaching influencers how to make money on online. So the acronym is SPACE, and I learned that there are different ways to make money. Have you ever heard of this? Mm-hmm. So the acronym is called SPACE. S stands for sponsorships, P stands for products, A stands for affiliate marketing, C stands for curriculum, and E stands for events. So she's saying these are the ways to make money as an influencer within this space, or even a content creator, that sort of thing. So in terms of me tackling other streams of income, I've also been looking at that acronym closer and closer, trying to think what could possibly work for me. I've thought of curriculum. I've thought of events. So maybe I'm like leaning more towards those, but we'll see where that takes me in the next couple of years. I don't have necessarily a plan yet, but I'm still thinking about it. I've been thinking about affiliate, but affiliate is another beast. It's definitely another beast. And I know it requires a lot of work, and the people who are winning on affiliates so much that they're making like $50,000 a month. It's insane. These people are posting almost every day, or maybe even twice a day, and they're constantly showing up.
You're running ads.
Yeah, we're running ads, but in a way that works for their audience, in a way that works for them. That's organic. Mm-hmm. And yes, I would say that I would have to literally make that a strength of mine, and that would take some time. And yeah, I applaud everyone that's able to do that. For me, I'm just thinking like, gosh, I have so much to look like. I have so much to focus on. There's so many different things that I'm already doing. And now it's just wondering, okay, imagine like having to add that as well. I'm going to have to let things go. I'm going to have to look back on my list of things that I'm doing and really let a good amount of things go if I want that to work. So it just requires me to there's some work and going back to the drawing board for me to really decide, and also trial and error, trying out things and see how they go.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing with, you know, because for me, for example, like I consider myself a full-time creator, right? But I run an agency, and with my agency, I have affiliate income that comes in from like people recommending like the service that I use, right? It's like Honeybook and the rest. But the main bulk of it is clients recurring payments, right? It's like clients paying every single month. That's the main bulk of it. And you also have expenses, like people that you pay. And I've always been thinking about it because I'm like, oh, if I can take on YouTube, then I'm able to reach, you know, more people, right? It's like with like the curriculum where you said like I can teach more people stuff. Like same thing with this video, right? Teach more creators how to be full-time creators. They get some value from it and they're able to purchase products, able to support the channel, Patreon. Like there's so many things, right? Like imagine a Patreon where you're paying $10 a month and you get access to videos where you can talk to like multiple creators. Like there's so many ways. Because yes, like going for money is great, but there's one thing I always live on is rather than going for money, go for action, right? Because action is like the most important thing. So for example, we work together with like the YouTube and stuff. And I think from what we've seen, we've posted like a few videos, right? And the YouTube has probably made $400 or $500, right? And 99.9% of that money comes from one video, right? Which is so interesting, right? So it begs like, you know, but I think if you really, really want to do YouTube, there's this creator named Carlos, and I remember he talked about going on YouTube, and I was like, okay, let's see. And he started posting, and between like the last year till now, he's posted so many videos. Like the moment you open youtube.com, like he's on there, right? And he's sharing like most of this things, like this journey, right? It's like actually with content creation, right? Like influencing, right? It's like the journey and like connecting back to and letting people know, okay, this is the process, and like not just kind of like perfect, like finished work, but showing people like that journey and that process is what YouTube is really about, right? And understanding that some videos are going to make more money, and like seeing what videos are making more money. Because if you talk about like financial stuff, you talk about tech stuff, you make different CPMs and stuff. And another thing I learned too with YouTube is that even big YouTubers that have millions of subscribers, the ad rates, right, for sponsorships are not even as high as like short form, right? So it's like, what is the relationship between like thinking about that entire business of like, okay, if I'm on YouTube, I'm giving this amount of energy because I'm building this long-term relationship with my audience, because that's easier to stick, right? And that's the beauty of it versus short form, where I can, you know, create short form content, like get money and then like transfer that, like, and thinking about like how you want to also live in that space over the next like 5 to 10 years and, you know, create content that is good for your audience, content that like you are excited about, and content that will also give you long-term purpose, right? It's like all at the same time. If you had to bet on 3 things right now and be like, okay, this is what I want to bet on, and this is what I want to take for at least like the end of the year, and just take action, what would those things be?
Mainly YouTube, my social media with sponsorships, continuing to do that, but just be more aggressive with that. And because I know where I'm aware of where I lack in terms of in comparison to the past couple of years where things were going. So yeah, I know, okay, I need to really step on the pedal again and really work hard on that. So those 2. And for the third, I honestly don't know on the top of my head right now, being that because they're already so new, like with me releasing my presets or maybe possibly trying out a curriculum or trying out affiliate. I have no idea yet, but I'm still thinking of that third thing. But yeah, it's mainly YouTube and what I have been doing or what's been working for me. I will say those two are my top. I learned a lot through all of the little mistakes that I've made or the things that I've done. I've learned a lot about my finances. I learned a lot about negotiating,
Right.
about even being able to speak with brands, email language, admin work, the trade overall, just how it works. I've learned so much, and there's still so much more to learn. There's still so many things that I don't know. So I can't say that I have any regrets right now. Only just more things to learn, really. Yeah.
As someone who does strategy for content creators for a living, I can tell you, strategy is so important. Strategy can make or break your content. Strategy can make your content make sense. Can make your content not just make sense to your audience, but to you. It just makes you feel like you're in control. Because without strategy, you might just as well be shooting for nothing and hoping that it hits. So I asked Nkenge, how did she develop her strategy for growth as a creator? And this is what she had to say.
Every single day or post 6 times a day. It could even be 3 times a week, but you have to figure out or the best ways to show up for your audience and show up for yourself on a weekly basis.
Right.
And if you're trying to take this on full time, that, like I said at the start of this, takes a certain level of self-motivation, takes a certain level of drive, perseverance, just, yeah, a certain level of calmness to be able to get that, get that done, get that, just to be able to do that. And yeah, once you do that, there's so many things you can learn about yourself, about your work ethic, about your audience, about what your brand, what works, what doesn't work, all of this. You need data. As you mentioned, you're a data person, you need data, and you got to post. You have to post, even if it doesn't do well. Keep posting until you find what does well and what works for you. Yeah.
Okay. As someone who is often mentally exhausted in my job and also in trying to be a creator, being a creator is so lonely, and your mental health is really, really important because the job can feel like you're wearing so many hats, and that gets really overwhelming fast. So I wanted to find out from her, how does she get through being overwhelmed? Because we all feel it, and if you're watching this video, you know you feel it too. So let's hear what she had to say. One thing that I am trying to remind myself right now, because I'm someone who loves to I love to like edit videos and like record videos, and I'm like, I wasn't having as much fun as I should be having because I love doing all these things, right? But especially for me, it's like I'm running an agency and I have all these people, right? People are doing different things, and I'm like, I miss, even this video, I'm gonna edit it by myself, because like I'll probably like I'll be like, oh, get me shorts, right?
Yeah.
But it's like with the main video, like I want to touch it, right? Like I'm seeing the people that are working with me as a way for me to do more, but not to replace the core of like what I'm doing. And even looking at my business, like, cause I'm so passionate about supporting creators, and I keep asking the team, like, what does creator support mean? And like, cause creators is so complicated, right? It's like different versions of like different people, and like, and people are so hard on themselves. Like we're all just like hard on ourselves because we're like, but we want this thing to work. We want to take it full time. And I think I'm enjoying the process more. So I think that's a very interesting version of success.
I went full time in 2021. So from 2021 to end of 2022 were great years, I will say, in terms of earnings. 2023 was also a great year, but I wouldn't necessarily say it was a place of, I was at a place of growth. It was below what 2021 and what 2022 gave me. So for 2023, I said, 7 out of 10, because in terms of what I initially projected, it wasn't there. It was basically like the same as 2022, if not around that.
Right.
And I will also say my mindset, the way that if we're not even talking about money, just thinking about where my mind was during that year, how that affected my work. Yeah, I will say that it wasn't the best year for me because I know who I am when I'm at my best or when I am doing the work. And last year wasn't that. So I would say I had to take some time to really, and I still have to take some time to really get myself back to where I was before that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's cool. So in 2024, if I, understand that, some of these channels could drop, I'm trying to establish more channels. What does it look like? And now that's the work you're doing with like the lady you're researching in, like trying to do the presets and trying to do YouTube and all of that, like spreading on these channels, but even adding in way more action constantly and creating systems where I know like, I can potentially, I'm somebody who likes to travel and someone likes to take breaks. I'm going to create these breaks, but the times when like are not those breaks on the calendar, I'm going super in and I'm paying attention to myself because you're also the business, right? You're paying attention to stuff like all those things and you're creating that system and like moving through all the different years. I feel like it brings a lot more comfort and ease to yourself, right? And I think creators need that because at the end of the day, it's like our mind is what is helping us, create, right? Like we want to enjoy playing, right? I don't know if you've read the book, Ali Abdal's book, Feel Good Productivity. He has his book, Feel Good Productivity, and he talks about the concept of play and how a lot of things that we do right now, it was because like we enjoyed playing around it. Like nobody says, I'm going to win a Nobel Prize, right? They just like play around with different theories and concepts and then they get there. So that's something that I want to say to you. Okay. But what are some of the strategies that you're using to kind of make sure that your mind is in check as you move in, like knowing what happened last year, going into this year and the future?
So one of the things is therapy. I started therapy last year and it has been very helpful in me really owning up to issues that I've had in the past, like addressing them and also learning how to move forward, and not only forward in my personal life, but also within my profession and what I do. So I will say therapy, I would continue to do that as time goes on. Another thing or strategy, as you mentioned, would be just being as organized as I can. So I'm a pretty organized person. So I like to write lists a lot whenever I come up with certain ideas or whichever. I write them down right away. I like to stay organized in ensuring all of my tasks or certain things are completed or done. And if they're not, try to keep up and catch up with them in the best way that I can. So yeah, I would continue to do that. But if there are other ways of me being more productive, I will do that. Another thing that I'm doing is there's been some time where I haven't been reading at all. And I actually picked up a book recently, at the beginning of the year, the 12-week year. I started that and it's been a great book so far. I have not finished it yet, even though we're already in month 4. But I will say, so far from what I have read, it has made me realize a few things about myself. One of those things being that I create unrealistic timelines for my goals. That's one thing I realized. So I'm at a point where I'm trying to conquer that.
So should you take the leap to becoming a full-time creator? Nkenge's story says yes, but let's not forget about the challenges. Personally, I run a creator support agency called A Random Creative. And over the past 3 years, I have gotten the opportunity to work with a lot of creators. And I've seen the highs and lows, the wins. And one thing I've seen is you have to be passionate about wanting to be a creator in the first place. Your number one priority should be wanting to share. wanting to share with that audience, wanting to share those things that you are excited about. And I think when you think about strategy, when you think about financial literacy, consistency, when you think about like your mental health, and you think about like even wanting to make that move to full-time first, or to even get started, you have to be passionate. Because if you're not passionate and you're not interested in the things that you're sharing, it becomes extremely hard. And then you start comparing, and then you get into comparing analysis, and you get into that paralysis of like, am I even good enough? But the truth is, you are good enough. And this is exactly why I made this video, because I wanted you to hear from a creator, but I also wanted you to know that even creators who have 100,000 followers, if you're someone who has less, they are also figuring it out. So if you're waiting for things to be perfect, you're just going to be waiting. I have had less than 1,000 subscribers since 2016. And I think what has helped me over the years, aside from the career that I've built outside of the internet, is the opportunity over the past 3 years to work with all of the creators that I've worked with. And I hope to share more videos, and I hope you subscribe to this channel, because if you're someone who is looking for help, if you're at a stage in your career, check the link in the description. You can book a discovery call with me and we can chat about it. Or if you're someone who is just interested in learning more, subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it to someone, a friend of yours who you know wants to be a creator. And I'm also going to be posting the extended version, the entire 2 hours of this conversation on my channel here. So definitely stay around for that. Until next time, keep creating and keep chasing your dreams. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.